LearningZone. Okay, so this takes you to your main landing page in DragonZone, unless you probably are familiar with this. And you've probably noticed this link right here. It says LearningZone at the top left. So if you click right there, that'll take you directly into LearningZone. And if you don't remember that dz.hcc.edu, you can always Google for the HCC homepage, and that DragonZone link is at the bottom right. So there's many, many ways to get where you're going. So let's get back to LearningZone. So the first thing that you'll see is your tiles for your course, all of your course listings. Sometimes you won't see all of your courses listed, especially if you want to work on your fall courses during the summer, or you want to get like your courses for the next semester up. If you don't, or if you're just teaching a lot of courses, maybe all of them won't fit on your dashboard. So if you want to add another course to your dashboard that you're teaching, you might need to go over to this tab over here and click Courses, and then go down to All Courses. And you will get a list of all the courses that you're teaching. Most of the time, when you're dealing with this, you're going to need to go down to the bottom. You'll see this says past enrollments. If I was teaching anything in the next spring, you would also see a column that said future enrollments. So that's where all of your, obviously, your future courses would be. So if you need to add something to your desktop, you need to make sure that the orange star or the star is orange. So if not, if I take this off, you'll notice I'll go back to my dashboard here, and this Gradebook Training course is no longer on my dashboard anymore. So again, that was courses, all courses, and I'm going to pin that Gradebook Training back by making that star orange. If I go back to my dashboard, now that Gradebook Training's back. And this is a real common thing that we see. It comes up every semester. You know, where are my courses? I'm supposed to be teaching it. I'm not enrolled in my own course. You are. You just need to go to all courses and go ahead and pin that to your dashboard. Another nice thing that you can do is you can rename any of these courses or change the color. This is only visual for you. So if you rename your course, the students won't see this. This is just for you. So if I wanted to rename Gradebook Training, I can go up to the top right of this tile, click the dots, and you see this nickname. And so it's like a nickname just for you. So I know face-to-face instructors, like when I was teaching, I was like, oh, that's my 8 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday class. I didn't really think of them as much as, 001, 161, I didn't think of that, which is what I'll call it in the system. So you can name that whatever you want. Color coding, I mean, that's really great too. If you want to color code, the most common one I see people, they'll color code their Monday, Wednesday, Friday is one, and then their Tuesday, Thursday is a different color. So it's kind of a good tip, a good suggestion. And again, only you see that. Your students can do the same thing on their end and name it and color it however they want. So that won't affect what they see. So that's kind of getting started with LearningZone. Now we're going to switch over more to the aspect of getting your course up and running, and then the grade book. Are there any questions yet before we jump into a course? Yeah, Andre. You don't want the, yeah. So Andre's question is kind of the opposite. I have courses on my dashboard that I don't want to see. So you can go to courses, like for instance, I was kind of in this course helping an instructor, this English course. I don't really want to see that on my dashboard. I can go back, go to all courses, and basically just do the opposite. So here's that English comp course. If you unstar it, then it'll take it off of your dashboard altogether. And I go back to my dashboard, and like magic, it's gone. That's a good question. Mm-hmm. You'll click the orange star, and that will add it to your dashboard. Let's scroll down. So it won't be that. It'll be yeah, they're down here in your future. So all of your spring ones. Yep. Take all the ones that have that spring 2018. Take them. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the gradebook training. And, oh, I didn't reset it from yesterday's training. Give me just a second. Let me clear this guy out. Let me go back home. Okay, so when you come into a course, you'll have this fresh template right here. Nothing is in it yet. It's not published. It's just a blank slate. So the first thing I want to talk about, so when you come into a course, you're going to have all of this stuff over here on your left side navigation that probably, I mean, for sure not all of them will apply to your course. Maybe some will, some won't. So to kind of edit and clean up this navigation, rearrange some of these items, you're going to scroll to the bottom, click Settings down here, and after clicking the Settings button, you're going to go up to these tabs at the top and click the Navigation tab. And so you'll get a list of all of the navigation items that are listed here. And to make them, you can rearrange them by drag and drop. And if you just want to get rid of them all together, you'll drag them to the bottom. So I'm going to take this just a chance to kind of give you a very quick overview of what all of these do. A lot of people have questions. And if you're interested in any of this, we can kind of do some advanced training. But let's just kind of go through these. So help and resources is more resources for students in online courses. So we're not going to use that guy. The attendance tool, it's a great tool where you can, I think Tracy talked about this tool briefly in one of the meetings on Monday in the recital hall. We're not going to use that. Collaborations, if you want students working together on projects or they're sharing files and actually kind of working together at the same time. It's a good tool. We're not going to use that. Conferences is pretty cool. It's like a chat room, but on steroids. So students can get in and be in a chat room. They can also do video chatting. They can do audio chatting. You can get in there and post up like a PowerPoint presentation and actually do a lecture. It's a really cool tool if you're interested in doing it, and we can do more training if you're interested on that. You guys know what roster certification instructor sheet is. Modules, if you haven't taught online, our online courses primarily use modules. Modules are just almost like folders. They're a way to kind of organize your assignments or your units so you can put links and quizzes and discussions all based on kind of one idea into. It's almost like a folder. Not going to use that. Quizzes, online quizzes. Students sign in, do their quizzes online. You can do, it's not really the same outcome reporting like HCC does, but you can attach outcomes to certain assignments. Syllabus lists all of the assignments in a course. You can do file sharing with the Files tab. You can make kind of like web pages with the Pages tab. People, it shows you the list of people in your course. Face-to-face course, you really don't need that because you guys are going to see them face-to-face multiple times a week. We're going to leave the grades because this is how students will view their grades by clicking this. Discussions, if you want to have online discussion forums, you can use that. We're not going to use that though. Assignments, this is actually the tab we're going to be building the gradebook out of. And so we're going to leave that and we'll be working primarily out of this tab. And then the announcements, you can post announcements to your class. Not very common in face-to-face classes because you can just make your announcements in class. So this is kind of a good setup for a very basic setup for most face-to-face courses. I'm going to leave it like this. When you're done kind of organizing from this navigation tab, scroll to the bottom and click Save. And now you'll see over here our navigation is cleaned up. The grayed out items are the ones that students won't be able to see. We did leave assignments available, but it's going to be grayed out until we get at least one assignment in there, and then that'll become available to the students, but they won't be able to get in there until later. Okay, so now we're going to transition fully into how to build a gradebook for your face-to-face courses. Any questions before we move on to that kind of more larger chunk of this training? Yeah, Deidre.
So students will be able to see roster certification?
I believe roster certification they won't be able to see. That's a new one, but you can set. Let me just check that real quick.
You can just drag it down, right?
You could just drag it down.
It's
No.
still going to be there, even though we've hidden it from them.
There it is. By default, even if it is showing, it's invisible to them. It is invisible to them. It's kind of a setting you can do in the background in the code. That's a good question. I had actually never tested that. My assumption was that it would go away, but now we know for sure. Good question, Deidre. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into kind of the bulk of this training and how to build your gradebook. There's many different ways to build your gradebook. You might have been doing it different ways, like even building it from modules and stuff, how you do it in online. I'm going to show you again the fastest, easiest way to do that, and you're going to do it from the Assignments tab here. So if you click Assignments, it'll bring you, let me see if I can move this recording video thing here. Actually, I want to see, keep an eye on the clock. Okay, so when you go to the Assignments tab, you will come to this blank window, and what we're going to first do is we're going to build what are called, LearningZone calls groups. Groups, you might call them categories, kind of the same idea. It's the way that you categorize your assignments in your class. So quizzes is a kind of a common group. Maybe exams, projects, it would be a group. Participation might be a group. So it's just a category of assignments. I would suggest thinking about what kind of categories you have before you start building your gradebook so you can have those categories ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and add some right now. And so by doing that, you just hit the plus group button and give it a group name. So my first group is going to be quizzes. You just type it in. You can hit enter or just hit save. I'm going to add in a couple more. I'm going to add in maybe an exams group. I'm going to add in, the idea is by the end of this, I want kind of somewhat of a working gradebook so I can show you then how to add grades. So I'm going to add in, let's just do one more group and say participation. So now I have all of my groups kind of built up. You'll see that LearningZone by default will bring in this assignments group. This just comes in, it needs something to start you out with. If you don't want this just generic assignments group, you can go over to the right, click on the gear, and click this delete button here. Or if you want to rename it to be more specific, like on paper assignments or something like that, you can also click edit on that gear and you can change the name of that instead of assignments. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it out of there. Click OK. And so now we kind of have our gradebook ready to go, and we have our groups ready to build into. The nice thing about having your groups built ahead of time is you can build your assignments directly into the group. If you try to add your assignments one by one, it's going to be a little bit longer of a process. You have to tell it what category it fits into. If you have your groups built, you can add them directly to your group. So for quizzes, I just go to the quiz. Let's say I want to add like a chapter 1 quiz. I'm going to go to the quizzes group, hit the plus button within that group, and it'll kind of bring up this pop-up here. So like I said, I'm going to give it the name of Chapter 1 Quiz. Now let's talk about the type. So there are many types of assignments in LearningZone. In your face-to-face courses, 99% of the time, you're going to just choose assignment. There are some other ones in here, like quiz. Now you're thinking, we're doing the Chapter 1 quiz. This assignment type is a quiz. Does anybody know the problem with if I choose that? What is that, Lisa?
I did it this time.
It's a common thing. It comes up a lot. What happened, Lisa?
Well, it won't let you do it because that's for online quizzes.
It's for an online quiz. So it's thinking, oh, the students are going to go log in, take their quiz online. So most of the time you're not going to do that. Most of the time if it's a face-to-face course, it's going to be assignment. If it's a face-to-face quiz, do assignment. Same idea with discussion. Most of the time you're not going to. I know Charles likes to use discussion forums in his face-to-face courses. Students do them at night. He is going to use that because students are going to log in, do their discussions online. But if it's like a discussion points for, we had a discussion over something in class, you're going to use that assignment button instead. Most of the time you're going to use the assignment button for face-to-face courses. So now we're going to set a due date here. I'm going to go ahead and make quiz 1 due tomorrow. I would suggest setting the due dates. You don't have to, but I would suggest it for 2 reasons. One, it will show up on the student's calendar, so they'll see what assignments are coming up. They also have a list that says things coming up, or a to-do list basically, so it'll show up there. And if they have notifications, they'll get notified about assignments coming up. The second part of that is that their gradebook will be organized by due dates. If you don't set your due dates, their gradebook will be organized alphabetically. And so if your students don't really remember, oh, what was that exam called or what was that assignment called, I don't remember what the instructor just kind of named it, it's going to be really hard for them to find that within their gradebook because they just don't know what they might have called it something else in their head. If you organize half of it by due date and half of it not, half of it will be in chronological order, the other half will be alphabetical. So in the end, I just suggest putting your due dates on. It just kind of makes everything a little cleaner. And then points, that's pretty obvious. Just go ahead and put your points for the assignment. And when you're done, click Save. So now we have our Chapter 1 quiz put into the quizzes group. When you're ready to go, you're going to go over to this little gray cloud with a slash. And right now it's unpublished. So what unpublished means is that the students don't have access to it. And even more than that, it doesn't really even exist to the students. It's not going to appear in their gradebook and their syllabus and anywhere. It's like it doesn't even exist. It doesn't even weight points in the gradebook. Actually, if you go in, it won't even be in your gradebook yet as a column until you publish it. So you click the gray cloud, make it turn green with a little up arrow, and now our assignment's published. So I'm going to build just a couple more quizzes in here to kind of hit that groove. So this one, I'm going to call it the Chapter 2 quiz. Set a due date a week later. Give it points. And you probably noticed there is a Save and Publish button. Saves you a click. That's all it does is it just saves and publishes it. So if you're just ready to go, hit Save and Publish. And I'm going to go ahead and just do one more quiz here. Let's call it the Chapter 3 quiz. And we'll make it due on the 1st. And so building out your assignments is just that easy if you have these groups already set up. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put a couple exams in here just to get a good grade book. So let's give our students a midterm. Let's make that mid was about the 25th, let's say. Let's make it worth 50. And let's add a final. I think that last day was the 1st, I believe I was pretending.
And you're still going to leave the type of assignment as an assignment?
Yep, I'm still going to leave it as assignment. Yep. You know, if you put it as a quiz, if you are doing it, like your final is online and you have all the students logging in, you have test banks and stuff like that, yeah, go ahead and choose quiz and then build your online quiz from there. But if they're coming in on the final day, sitting down and doing a final on paper, you're just going to leave that type as assignment. And you'll be so tempted to call it a quiz, but it's not. Okay, so now let's, yeah, Andrea. Yeah. You'll have to ask one of us. Do you want to? I'll talk to you after this section about it. That's a good question, though. Yes, Christopher.
Just a quick comment. Your groups. You can easily then put your groups on the instructor sheet under methods of assessment.
Yes.
So that's on there.
So Christopher brings up a good point. Using the groups really helps with, there's many reasons that we use groups. I'm going to show you at the end of this kind of how it helps organize. One of the great things Christopher was saying, when you go to your instructor sheet, it asks for that methods of assessment, that little table you have to build. If you just use what you have in LearningZone as your groups, it's just easy peasy from there. You just kind of plug them into the table. So all of that organization has already been taken care of. Jason.
When I upload content from the last semester, whatever the classes will move over the way I have it.
Will it? Is that the, yes, it'll move all the groups and yeah, absolutely will. So let's talk about another idea. So LearningZone has a thing, I think like kind of traditionally in online courses we've called them drop boxes. LearningZone doesn't call them drop boxes, but the idea is if you want students to submit an assignment to LearningZone, like a paper or an essay, we can do that again just the same right here from this window. So let's say that you do have a student, you have a project that your students are going to submit a paper. So let's put this in this projects area. You're going to go to the plus button under projects, and we're going to go ahead and call it, I'm just going to call this one the Clean Energy Project. Maybe they have to research something about clean energy. Let's go ahead, just like before, put your due date on just like you would, fill everything up ahead of time. But now we're going to go down here to the top, the bottom left, and click this more options here so we can set up this kind of Dropbox style thing. So click more options. And a lot of the stuff has been pulled in, like your points, what assignment group it's in, the name of the assignment. This window here is where you'll put the instructions. So maybe in this assignment, you will put your instructions there. You can also attach files. So if you have a rubric or if you have more instructions, criteria that the students have to meet, you can put all of that in there, whether that's links. You can even put links to videos, links to files. It's nice to just kind of everything attributed to the assignment, kind of just keep it in one place right here so these students have their instructions, and that'll also save paper on not having to print things off and hand it out to your students, and they lose it and ask you for more copies, and you can just put it all online. So like I said, a lot of this stuff has been pulled in, points, projects. The thing that I want to focus on here is this submission type. This is how we turn it into a Dropbox. So the submission type right now is set to no submission. That's how face-to-face courses the system kind of thinks of. No submission. You're not going to be turning anything in online. It's all going to be in class. Well, let's turn that no submission into a submission type of online. When we do that, we have a bunch of different online entry options. The most common are text entry and file uploads. Text entry will give them a text box where they can type directly kind of into a text box right there. It's great for if you just want a sentence or maybe one paragraph from your students. It's a great place to just to use the text entry. Most common is the file uploads though, so students can write out their paper, probably in Microsoft Word or something like that, and they can submit that file to you. You can restrict file upload type. You just put it in as the file type you want. So Microsoft Word is .doc. It's also, you can separate it by a comma, put docx. I kind of would suggest that. All students have access to the Microsoft Student Suite as being an HCC student. They can download that. So they do have access to Microsoft Word. We've seen some students submit doc pages. Has anybody seen that come through their classes?
I had stuff come in that I couldn't open.
Yeah, so it's nice just to limit it to them because they have access to Microsoft Word, and they should be using it since they have access to it. Dot pages is one we see a lot. It comes with Macintosh, with Apple computers. It's just an Apple product, but most instructors don't have access because we have Microsoft computers. So that's one that we see a lot. So the system just won't open it. Your computer won't open it. So if you go ahead and restrict that upload type, it might save you some headache. Okay. There are some other options. If you guys are interested in some of this stuff, like group assignments, peer reviews, you can have students do peer reviews, let us know. We can do some one-on-one training if you want to come in and ask and brainstorm on some ideas of how you might use that, if you think you have a good idea. And yeah, come on down and we can do some training and talk about how all that works. We're not going to talk about that today. And then again, if you want to change your due date, you can come down here into this setting, but all of this was pulled in from that first window when we created our assignment. When we're done, we have our assignment ready to go. Click Save and Publish. So this is kind of what the students will see with this kind of Dropbox style assignment. The only difference is they will have kind of an area down here where they can submit their file to, or if they have their text box and they'll have a button. That's the only difference, but this is basically the window that they will see. All right, let's go back to assignments. And I'm going to show you one more trick here. This is actually a new one that just came out this summer. Let me get an assignment in here first. So let's do a participation assignment. I'm going to call this week 1 participation. I did 3 points a day. Save and publish. So let's say you have an assignment, kind of like participation, that comes up like every week, all the time. There's a new feature that let me kind of scroll this up so you guys see this a little better. There's a new feature where you can go to your assignment here, go over to the edit button, and just hit duplicate, and it'll duplicate your assignment. The idea that comes to mind first was participation, but maybe you guys have other ideas where things come in. We had some guys yesterday that had a really great idea where they kind of had their students, they gave them multiple attempts. They had a specific situation they worked out with students at the prison, and it was a really good use of duplicating. So each of you might have individual needs for that, but it's a really nice feature. You can go in and edit it if you don't like that copy on there, or you can just go in and change it to week 2. You can change your due date here. So the duplicating assignment, it's a new feature. I just thought I might show you guys that. So one more thing before we look about how to actually enter grades, I want to show about just some kind of features that the gradebook has. So we've built our assignments. What if maybe you want to put some rules on these categories, like I want to drop the lowest grade from a category, like a student's lowest score, I kick it out and it's not worth anything. You can do that manually, but you actually can just do that automatically by going to the category you're dealing with, going to the gear on that category, and we're going to go to the edit button. So, of course, we can edit it, change your group name, but we can also, the number of scores to ignore for each student. So lowest score, so if you want to drop the lowest score, set it to 1. If you want to drop maybe the 2 lowest scores, you can set it to drop the 2 lowest scores. I'm going to set it to 1. If you want to be a big meanie and drop the highest score, I don't know why you would, but you'll have to answer to your students for it. But you can drop the highest score as well automatically. Let's say you have a certain assignment that you never want dropped, like, man, that chapter 3 quiz, they have to know this stuff, and I want it to ignore it. You can go down here to that never drop button and add that chapter 3 quiz, and you can even add more and more. So if maybe you have a lot of exams, drop the lowest one, but never drop the final. I don't want the final ever dropped. You can add that to that list. I'm going to leave this one kind of clean and leave that off, but we are going to drop the lowest score. Click Save. And you can see right up here, we have one rule set to the quizzes category, and that's to drop the lowest score. There's one other trick with the gradebook. Some instructors love using it. Some instructors say they don't like it at all, but that's adding weights to the categories. So if you want to add, your exams, they need to be worth 40% of the course no matter what, we can add weights to these categories. You can go up here to the gear at the top right, and go to Assignment Groups Weight, and click the check mark here, weight final grades based on assignment groups. When you do that, all of your groups will appear, and you can set what you want each of these weighted. So if you want the exams worth 90% of the points, you can do that, and no matter what you put those exams in as, even if they're 2 points apiece, it doesn't matter. The gradebook is going to be weighted as those are worth 90% of the grade. It's personal preference. I never liked using weights in my courses. I was like 1 point equals 1 point. Some people really like them. I know there are some English courses out there where 70% of the grade has to, I can't remember, I might be flipping that, but 70% of the grade has to be based on grammar, 30% of the grade is based on the writing assignments. So maybe I flipped that around. But anyway, that really helps, like those English instructors, they don't even have to think about the points. It doesn't matter. They know that they're meeting what their syllabus requires and what HCC requires from that course. So in that case, yeah, that's awesome. So it's personal preference though, really.
I missed it. Where did we go?
Yep.
That weight.
So you go to the very top right gear.
This one up here?
Yep, that one right there. You'll click it, and then assignment group weights, and go ahead and hit that check mark, and your weights will pop up there.
Thank you.
Yep, and you'll get a running total. So if you don't want to do the math, this will just count up and let you know, okay, you're at 50% right now. You need another 50% to make it worth 100. I'm not going to use weights. I'm going to cancel that out. Okay, so now we're going to transition into how how to enter grades into the gradebook and what that looks like for students and you. Are there any questions about this part about entering your grades into getting them into the gradebook? Good, perfect. So to enter your grades into the gradebook, you're going to go over here to the grades column or the grades tab. And so now you'll see all of these columns have been dynamically generated, which is nice. I don't know if you guys remember from Angel, it was a lot harder than this. You'd have to add your columns, attach the assignments to that column, and it was a pain. So this, it's just really nice compared to where we came from. So now we have all this. We can organize the gradebook. Of course, you can drag and drop your columns if you want to organize them yourself. You can go over here to the gear at the top right to help organize, though. We have some different options. The most common is to arrange your columns by due date. So now, quiz 1, week 1 participation, week 2, quiz 2, midterm. You can also, and this is only for your view. The students will still see it in the chronological order regardless on their view, but this is just for your view here. You can also arrange columns by assignment group or by points. Assignment group is probably the second most common way people like to do them. Make sure all of your quizzes are together, all your participations are together, all of the midterms and the finals are together. Move that guy over now, it's above me. So now to add your points directly into the gradebook, you just click on the cell right here. It'll tell you how much it's worth. So let's say Jane got a 10. We can click here, and maybe John got an 8. This also works just kind of like Microsoft Excel, any other table. You can use your arrow keys to just move around like that. You can hit the enter button and go to the next point, next column. So if you're really good with the 10 key, you can just do that, get your points ready. So let's give Jane an 8. Let's give John a 9. Let's just get some points in here. Let's give 9. Let's give John a 10. So we're already seeing something. I don't know if you guys can see it up there. It's really, really faint. But these cells, right, this one here and this one here are grayed out. They're kind of a dark gray with stripes on it. Who knows what's going on there?
Lowest score.
What's that?
Lowest score.
Yep, lowest score for your quizzes. These two ones are the lowest score for both of these students. So it's grayed out, meaning those have been dropped. So if maybe John or Jane actually got a 7 on this one, it updates, and now this one's grayed out. So it's just an indication to you that this one isn't counting for your students. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill out the grade book so we can see what this looks like as a student. Let's say our students are really good participators, like all students are. 89, and this is nice, an unusually high grade. It's a new feature about a year ago they came out with, so if you give somebody 1,000%, it'll let you know. Let's say Jane got a 45. Let's give her a better score. 48 on the midterm. Maybe John didn't do quite so well. On the final, Jane got a 45, and again, John did kind of bad. And let's give them both good scores for the clean energy project. So the nice thing now, if you guys ever see this test student in here, if you ever view your course as a test student, so you can view, let me just show you that real quick. That's kind of common. If you want to view your course as a student sees your course, you can go over to settings at the bottom left, go to student view at the top right, and you can view the course as a student would see it. So right now we're in student view. It has this big banner at the bottom. You're in student view right now. So you can actually see, I unpublished something. Do students really not see that? You can go in here under that student view and check that out. But when you do that, it puts that test student, so if you ever see that in your gradebook, test student, that's what's going on there, because the system actually thinks when that student goes in there, it treats that person as a real student. So if you see that, that's why you viewed your course as the test student. So What's nice about using those categories now, there's many reasons. One of them is to just organize your gradebook nicer, and it will give you the breakdown of how students are doing overall on each student's doing overall on these groups. Quizzes, 90%, 100%, and will give you the breakdown of how they're doing on these categories. If you want, by default, this carried over from last session, but by default, your total is going to be shown as a percentage. If you want to change that, you can go to the drop down on the total column and change that to, it typically comes in as percent. Let me show you what that, so it's typically, by default, will come in this way. But if you want to switch that to points, you can click that switch to points, and then this total column will switch. We'll switch it to points. Does that make sense? Okay. So, let me switch that back to, Christopher.
Just again, you said if we move the order here,
Mhm.
it does not change the order for students.
Yep, it won't change the order for the students, which is a great transition, thank you, Chris, to what does the gradebook look like for the students? A lot of people want to know what this looks like, so let's look at John's grade here. If we click on John's name in the gradebook and then go over to grades, and this is kind of a new feature of these cards, I think came out in the spring. Kind of nice, gives you a breakdown of how the students are doing in the course. But if we click on this grades button here, it'll bring you to how the student sees their gradebook. So this is how the student will see it. So no matter how you organize it, the students are still going to see it in chronological order, or alphabetical if you don't have dates set. But this is how your students will see your gradebook. You can tell this was the one that was dropped because it's grayed out here. So this was the quiz, John's lowest, 8 out of 10. And again, using those categories, it's really great. I mean, it helps students succeed really, because like it just shows right here, John, why do I have a B? Well, you're doing really well, but your exams, you have an average of 65%. So building in those categories really helps the students kind of dial in how they're doing and give them a better pulse on their progress through the course. All right, so one more thing. When you're done and you're ready to make your course live, go to your home page, and just like how we had to publish your assignments, you're going to want to publish your entire course. So if you go to the publish button up here, it's going to ask you, what do you want to be your home page? Basically, when students come in, where do you want them to land? If you're using modules, go ahead and make that the home page. They come in, they see your different units that you've put content in. If you're just using the gradebook, though, you can just send them to the assignment list. I think that's probably one of the best places. So if you choose that as your home page, it will drop them in right here, right onto this screen here. And there's some other options if you want. You can drop them in the syllabus. The syllabus, this one's pretty good. It will drop them and give them a chronological view of what all their assignments are. Personal preference, but when we do our online courses, we drop our students in on the modules. Your face-to-face courses, you know, they're different than online courses. So it's just kind of up to you what works best for your course. So now you have a working gradebook. You can always build more categories, delete them, add more assignments. Some people like to go from semester to semester. They kind of generally teach the same stuff. You know, you can always have us copy that from semester to semester. I don't know why. I always just like kind of building my gradebook as I went. I don't know, maybe I'm weird like that, but I just like to constantly, next participation points. I always just kind of built my gradebooks as I went. It's personal preference. So if you want us to copy from semester to semester, that works too, especially if you have that really honed in, you know exactly what you're going to be teaching every single semester. That works. Just let us know and we can make copies. That's basically it for running the gradebook. So if we have questions, what do
I
we
have a
have?
question,
Uh-huh.
because he likes to roll his over.
Uh-huh.
Does it roll over the same dates? Or do you have to go in and change the dates?
You have two options. It can move over the dates, or we can click remove dates and it'll remove them, so you can go in and add dates.
Okay.
I
really
did one
easily.
yesterday, and I put on, move it forward, and I put start here and end here.
Mhm.
But when I did it, when it moved it across, I still have to adjust it.
Okay.
And if you do, when you do that import and it has that starts and ends, and I just learned this week. I always thought I always just thought the tool was kind of finicky. If you use the start dates, the official ones that are in LearningZone, yeah, they line up way better. My assumption was I needed to use the dates in LearningZone because I'm going LearningZone to LearningZone. Yeah, it'll really mess it up.
Course start date, course end date.
Yep, the official one from LearningZone, Christopher.
And if you bring in the assignments undated, you can use the calendar feature.
Let's show that because that's a really good feature. So if you bring in your assignments without due dates, so let me just kind of pull a couple, make these undated. So let's say, yeah, that's a very good point. So let's say everything came over without due dates, so it'll just be the quizzes here. If you're on your home page, go over here to View Calendar, and it's like you got to kind of squint. It's so small but so powerful. Go over here to View Calendar, and it'll bring up the calendar for your course. Of course, you wouldn't have these items here if you didn't have them, but if you bring them over without due dates, go over here to this drop down, the undated, and all of your assignments will be listed within this area here. No, I think the browser's being a little funny. Let me refresh. Oh, there they were. Sorry. I just wasn't patient enough. There we go. So any assignment that you have for this course, you might need to uncheck some of your courses here. We're just looking at the Gradebook Training. That's where all those assignments are coming from. Yay. There we go. So Gradebook Training here. You can just pull these quizzes, drag and drop them right onto the calendar. So if you pull those over and you don't have any due date set, you can just pull these guys right over. And of course, you can also, come on, there we go. You can also move them around from date to date as well if you want to change those. So this calendar tool is it's awesome. It's a really nice feature. A very nice feature.
So can the students go see this somewhere?
Yeah, the students will have that link so they can look at their calendar as
It's
well.
over there on the right?
Yep.
Okay.
They can go.
Will it have default times, like 11:59?
Yep.
That's what it was doing.
Yep, 11:59 at the end of that day.
It'll always default to that.
Yep, it'll always default to that. You can change it. You can, of course, change that. But yeah, the default is the very last minute of that day. Mhm.
I would say be careful, like, because if you have it at 11:59 p.m. and it's due during class, your students will come to you and say, but it says in LearningZone that it's due.
Yeah, because we
Good
have
point.
assignments that are due, like, before they come to class, they have to have it done. And if you don't remember, go in there and check it.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
I had a student last semester that said, Mr. Allen, I started to upload my stuff at 11:58 p.m. and it shut me off. Well, maybe next time you can plan.
Give yourself more than a minute.
And if you have long distance patients, students from, like, I teach like online PATHO, and I have students in California, I always put in my instructions, all times are Central Standard Time.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yep. Because the system adjusts for that, and they can get confused. So yeah, if they're in LA or something, it's at midnight. Well, they have to get it in by 10 actually. So and the system will, if they go in at 11 o'clock that night, it's locked out because the system accounts for that. And that's a good point, letting them know, especially the online courses. You never know. We have students literally all over the world. Most are in here, but literally all over. Jason, and we'll go to you, Lisa. Lisa?
Okay, well, I just had a question this summer, in the grades section, the cards that come up.
Yeah.
So I had emailed some students, this little email icon, and because I was telling them what their current grade was and what they were missing. So, and then I had some that replied, and I could see that they replied, but I couldn't see, they had attached something and see it, but I couldn't find that anywhere. Does this go to, what email?
It goes to, and we actually try to be careful with calling it email because it's actually, we call it messaging. Because really it's the messaging within LearningZone. So it's not associated, and that's why we try to stay away from calling it email because you can assume was that their DragonZone email or is that my HTC email. Yeah, so it's just within the course itself. If the students have their notifications set up, they will get a forwarded message to their email, but we have no control of that. That's their preference for notifications. But,
Okay.
you know, you just kind of have to assume that it's completely internal within LearningZone.
Okay.
Separate from the inbox.
Separate, no, same idea, inbox messaging, yep, yeah, same concept, yep, same thing. Is that the students? Yeah. Great question.
Assignment question.
Yeah.
I have groups of students,
Mhm.
and when I go into assignment for this day,
Uh-huh.
I have to choose every student. There's not like a parent group that I can say, group A, boom, your assignment's here.
That's a good question.
So
So
I can't find it because I have to go in and type every student.
if you have, you know, students, like cohorts of students, you know, you have maybe just have your class split into teams or something like that, we can you can set up groups ahead of time. I'll show you this after the session. It's a little specific, it'll take seconds, but know that you can do that. You can build out groups. So when you assign things to students or multiple due dates, we can split that up. That is possible. Yep. And you can build I'll show you in a second. Yeah, just stick around. We'll
Yeah, I need to know that.
Okay, yeah.
For my clinical groups.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll go ahead and do that in a second if we don't have any other questions. So are there any other questions? Okay, so like I said, the 3332 number, that goes to Lisa, Tracy, and I. You can email as well, stop by, set up an appointment with us if you want to do like some training or just have questions, you have a glitch in your course, something's weird, or students have problems, send them our way, you know, if it's something technical, and we're always happy to help. We're located right across from the president's office, so they can keep an eye on us. But, anyway, yeah, feel free to stop by. I'm going to stick around. I'm going to show those who are interested in building groups into their gradebook. I'm going to go ahead and do that, but feel free to stay if you want. But if not, that's all.